Alright, Edge of Eternities is coming out soon, so I thought this would be a good chance to talk about 5 bad things about Edge of Eternities. A few things before we get started. This is mainly going to be with a focus on standard. These are just my opinions. You're free to disagree. The set releases on Arena on the 29th. So, first thing I want to talk about is I think Station is just not a very exciting mechanic. These vehicle-like mechanics, sometimes you can have like a good vehicle or a good card that fits into these mechanics, but overall I just don't think they're exciting mechanics. And I think I heard somebody comparing these to battles because you kind of stack up counters on the cards, sort of like you remove counters permanently from battles before you flip them. So I don't think that's a good thing to be compared to, considering I don't think most people would consider battles much of a success. New card designs always interesting, I guess, but I don't know if I like the riffs on vehicle that much. And important to note that there are station does exist on the planet cycle of lands, which I think is slightly better because there's less of an opportunity cost, and some of them I think will be okay in standard. In particular, I don't think the green one's very relevant, but yeah. Overall, these planet lands are probably more commander cards than standard cards, and overall spacecraft just not super exciting mechanic. Next thing I want to talk about is the spaceships for scale in the art. I would dare to make the comparison. This is for the Stellar Sites bonus sheet, this land bonus sheet. You can see that they all have a spaceship, and to me this is the hats of the set. Ever since like OTJ, or maybe it was Murders of Karlov Manor, people have been like, oh, this set is just this with a hat or something. And so yeah, I just feel like these spacecrafts, I don't like the way they break the frame, and I don't like the way they obscure the text. I think one thing that they're going for in the art with this set was to try and convey the scale of space in the art. So they were like, oh, put a spaceship for scale in the art, but the fact that it's breaking the frame going into the text box, it's no longer like part of the art. So I don't even think it's really doing a good job of conveying scale. It's just kind of annoying. Yeah. And then while we're on the topic of this lands bonus sheet, I think they could have picked a few better lands than some of the ones they included. The art for these like 2-color creature lands is very pretty in the bonus sheet here, but I don't think these cards see that much play in any particular format. And then you also have like a card like Endless Sands, which I don't know what deck would really want to play this. So if you open this card when opening the set, that would probably be pretty sad. Though I will say Mutavault is one of like the creature lands that I sees a fair amount of play in Pioneer, I believe. All right, another art related thing is the thin borders on these spacecrafts. So again, I think part of this was they wanted expansive art to convey the scale of space. And so these spacecrafts have these art that kind of go outside of the borders, but I feel like the fact that they have those lines is just so that they can have the extended art version. It's there to make the art worse, basically, these lines that interrupt. So I feel like they could have just, if they wanted to do this, they could have just made all spacecrafts extended art and it would have just been nicer. But yeah. All right, the next topic, this one might be a little bit contentious. I think some of the repetitive designs, in particular, is like 2 I want to complain about, is just not great. I think you can do a job, or like you can add twists to existing cards to make them interesting, but for Sledge Class Seed Ship, this effect where you cheat a creature onto the battlefield, I don't think there's going to be a twist on this that really ever gets me that interested in it, and it feels like really a waste of a rare slot. They've already printed this sort of effect on 2 cards this year, and I'm kind of sick of it. I just would prefer if they focused on designing cards that are worth cheating into play or hard casting. I think that would get me way more excited than, oh look, it's the green rare that tries to cheat a big creature into play. So yeah, that's my complaint. I do think, like, Smuggler's Surprise is like a good example of this is a pretty cool twist on it, or like impactful twist on it, but overall, got to be careful with making these sort of repetitive card designs. And I would just prefer often that they design something new and exciting. I get it, it's a challenge, but yeah. And if you want to play this effect in Commander outside of Kona, Golta, or Smuggler Surprise, I think Monsters Manual is better than like Elvish Piper or anything like that, because you also have the adventure if you need it, and it's not a creature, it's not easy to remove. All right, next one I want to complain about is Sothera. When the set was like a space, or when they kind of were talking about this set is a space set, and there's this black hole in the setting, was really excited for it, and then all of my excitement was kind of drained when the black hole card turned out to be just kind of a riff on Grave Pact. I think Grave Pact is it's a card that if you ever played it in Commander, you know how it can suck the life out of the game, because you can just kind of sort of lock people out of the game, or it's really hard for people to interact with without just like straight up removing it. Really good at dealing with creatures. So Thera is a little bit better because it will leave the battlefield, but I do think that the fact that this big headliner card for the set was something that was kind of already existing ruined the excitement for me in that regard. All right, and then last bad thing about the set I have to say is I really wish they would not print these Exile Wraths into Standard. Sunfall is rotating with this set. Sunfall is definitely worse than Beyond the Quiet because it gives you an incubate token which can actually win the game, which is crazy for an Exile Wrath. That's just such a hard reset on the board. But yeah, not a huge fan of these Exile Wraths because you can't like give your creatures indestructible to deal with it or anything like that. It's just very, very brutal. It turns off death triggers. It turns off any sort of reanimation shenanigans. So yeah, it turns off the indestructible keyword, which is a little bit sad. Sort of like Nowhere to Run. Turns off hexproof, which is quite sad as well. Though we do have, and important to note, we do have like Ultima in Standard, which ends the turn, so that turns off death triggers, but is a little bit better in the sense that I think you can still go about reanimating and it doesn't deal with indestructible. But yeah, that is my 5 bad for Edge of Eternities. If you want to balance that out with the good, consider checking out the video in the description below. And let me know your thoughts on Edge of Eternities. With that being said, have a nice morning, evening, night, wherever and whenever you're watching. Take care of yourself. Ciao.